On today's installment of Big Al's Garage, Big Al's Top 10 Fuel-Efficient Classic Cars. Hello, I'm Big Al, and welcome to the garage. Today I'm counting down my top 10 list of fuel-efficient classic cars. Now here in South Carolina, the price of regular gas is hovering right around $4.60 a gallon, and that's significantly below the national average. So I don't think I need to tell you that driving classic cars, especially the older big V8 powered ones, is going to get a little pricey. But we need not surrender to the Priuses and the, or worse, Mach-E. There are several fuel-efficient classic cars out there. I'm going to rattle off a list of them. I rank them by their fuel economy rating, from least to greatest. I should also mention that fuel efficiency is a bit of a relative term. For example, what was considered fuel efficient in the 60s would be considered a guzzler by today's standards. So, with that in mind, let's roll down the list. Number 10, the Chevy Corvette. Did you really think I wasn't going to include it on this list? In an era in which you were buying Chevelles and Impalas that had gas mileage rating in the teens or single digits, the Chevy Corvette delivered 22.5 miles per gallon on certain models. Your mileage may vary. And of course, it's also a lot of fun to drive. It handles very well. However, the caveat with the Corvette is, yes, it gets good mileage, but your savings will more than likely be offset by the fact that all but the base models require premium fuel. Premium is a good 40 cents a gallon more expensive than regular. It's over $5 here in South Carolina. Moving on, number 9, the Ford Falcon, produced from 1960 to 1970. The Ford Falcon is a good little economy car. Also came in the Ranchero Ute variant. It delivers a combined average of 25 miles per gallon. I should mention it, 25 miles per gallon. I had a three-way tie, so I ranked the three cars by desirability. Number 8, produced from 1984 to 1988, the Pontiac Fiero. This mid-engine sports car was in many ways the 80s version of the Corvette, in many ways just as controversial. There were rumors of engine fires, which were somewhat substantiated in the earliest models that used the god-awful Iron Duke motor. But by 1988, they had gotten the car worked out and dialed in, and it's a pretty sweet ride. Pontiac Fiero will deliver you 25 miles per gallon on average. The last car in the 25 mile per gallon range, and what number am I up to? Number 7, the MG MGB. This little British sports car was produced from 1962 to 1980. Little two-seater, little four-cylinder, very beautiful looking car, although not the most reliable. They're true classics, and they will deliver you 25 miles per gallon, depending on how you drive. Next on this list, we go to the 70s, with a car that absolutely just typified the automotive industry in that decade. I am talking about the AMC Gremlin. Produced from 1970 to 1978, the Gremlin was a little two-door hatchback that, let's face it, it looked kind of dorky, but with a straight six engine would give you 28 miles per gallon. Today the car has a little bit of a cult following, and you can pick them up for somewhat reasonable prices. They will turn some heads, although Maybe not entirely for the right reason, but they get good mileage, so they end up on this list. Number 5. I am going to take some heat for this one for calling it a classic, but the Gen 2 Mitsubishi Eclipse. Yes, they are over 25 years old, they are desirable, they're getting rare. In my book, that makes it a classic. The Gen 2 Mitsubishi Eclipse, produced from 1994 to 1999, will deliver you an average of 29 miles per gallon, give or take. They made all different engines, all different variants of it. 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, normally aspirated turbo. My dad had a non-turbo convertible. We get about 27 on the highway out of it. So, not the most fuel efficient, but definitely not a guzzler either. Moving on, number 4. The Volkswagen Beetle. The car that was conceived by Adolf Hitler and later became a symbol of peace and love in the 1960s and had one of the longest production runs in automotive history, built from 1938 to 2003. That was the VW Beetle, and it delivered 32 miles per gallon. And it came with an extra auxiliary fuel tank that you can kick it open, have an extra 2 gallons, and get another 64 miles out of it. Granted, they're quite underpowered and slow, and you'll probably die if you get into a crash, but old Herbie the Love Bug is still popular, and definitely a very fuel-efficient choice for having a classic car. Number 3. Again, I may take some heat for this one because it is sort of a new classic. And I'm going to do a whole video on top 10 90s classic cars. The Honda CRX. Built from 1983 to 1991. This little 2-door sport compact front-wheel drive. Light, nimble, fun to drive, and delivered 34 miles per gallon on average. Some have gotten more, some have gotten less, depending on the make and the exact model. Number 2, the Austin Healey Sprite. This car was the twin to the MG Midget. It was produced from 1958 to 1971, not always sold in the United States, as is the case with the MGB. But all are now legal to import under the 25-year import law. This vehicle will deliver 36 miles per gallon. And now, our number 1 fuel-efficient classic car is one probably most of you have never heard of. That is the Nash Metropolitan. This little subcompact was built by Nash, a company that would later merge with Hudson Motor Car Company to form American Motors. This little vehicle was built from 1953 to 1961 and delivered an incredible, both by contemporary and by standards of the time period, 37.5 miles per gallon. Anyway, that is my top 10 picks for fuel-efficient classic cars. I know some of you are not going to agree with some of my more recent picks, but hey, like I said, I am going to do a whole video on classic cars of the 90s coming up soon. Do you agree with my picks or not? Let me know in the comments. And please like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next installment.